Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent computer role-playing game. This week I'm taking a look at one that I've been following from its crowdfunding days. Developed and published by Lost Pilgrim Studio, Vagrus the Riven Realms was released on October 5th of 2021. Vagrus the Riven Realms is a text-heavy, open-world, trading management/tactical game set in a dark, fantasy, post-magical apocalypse world. You manage your caravan on a number of levels, from your personal Vagrus leader, your companions, and then the caravan overall. Most of the game takes place in a mix of exploration mode and text-based story elements, interspersed here and there with combat and other subsystems. In terms of plot, you play a Vagrus, a leader of a caravan set to explore and trade within a shattered realm. Long ago, the Elder Gods unleashed a devastating magical cataclysm before leaving the world. Out of the ashes of the old empire, a new one has arisen, scraping by in a hostile, twisted, and shattered landscape. When you start a new game, you select between two difficulty levels. There's Wasteland mode, which is the higher difficulty and the one the game is actually designed for, and then there's Dissonance mode, that provides a more forgiving world so that one can focus more on the overall narrative. It should be noted that Vagrus is quite a difficult game for a number of reasons, and even the more forgiving mode can be somewhat challenging. You are then dropped into an intro scene where you are given the chance to undergo an in-depth tutorial/prologue by following a wandering old man's tale of another caravan. You can, of course, skip right to character creation here as well to get right into the game. Creating your first character lets you pick a race. There are 4 human races representing natives of different parts of the world, and then the dwarves, half-elves, orcs, dark elves, and demonkin. Each one has the benefits of a few perks, with a function of skills and stats kind of all together in one, as well as some other benefit. These benefits may be reputation with various factions, advanced equipment, resources, and so forth. The differences make for a fairly different focus with each race, allowing for different types of playstyle. After this, you select your background. Again, this simply grants additional perks and potentially gear or followers for your comitatus or your caravan. There's the veteran, adventurer, aristocrat, artisan, 2 different criminal organizations, entertainer, healer, laborer, priest, ranger, slaver, scholar, sorcerer's apprentice, and savage. Some of these backgrounds are restricted such that certain races can't take them. Your calling is next, which sets up your basic caravan start. Each of these starting callings, trader, mercenary, and explorer, grants different perks, reputation with different suitable factions, and then a number of slaves, workers, soldiers, and gear items to allow your caravan to be more suited for your particular origin. A mercenary tends to start with more fighters and combat material, for instance, while an explorer gets more scouts, a looking glass, and so forth. The ambition sets your overall victory condition for the game, since it is open world. There's wealth, renown, and free play, which doesn't really have a victory condition unless you play all the way through until you die, with knowledge ambition set to come in the future. Selecting your perks comes next. This is done in a manner similar to the level up options later in the game. Now, Vagrus doesn't have a leveling system per se, but rather you earn insight during play by completing quests and exploring new terrain, mostly the latter, which you may then use to improve your various perks, your resourcefulness, and your authority. Character creation lets you just start with a number of insight to spend as you wish, just like you earn them while exploring. Resourcefulness is used to activate special abilities and can be used to boost tests during play. Authority allows you to set some more named NPCs into particular roles in your caravan, while perks are a mix of your skills and attributes. Leadership perks each have 1 rank and basically unlock different leadership abilities that can use your resourcefulness to trigger. Professions are your varied skills and range between 2 and 3 potential ranks each. These cover a wide variety of useful skills that can benefit your exploration, trading, or even your interpersonal interactions. Attributes are used in a variety of tests and have between 3 and 5 ranks depending on the attribute. All of these use insight to improve, and the higher the existing rank, the more insight it costs. Finally, you name your character and you select a portrait. The summary of your chosen bonuses is given here as well in case you need to review them. You are then dumped into the game proper. Vagrus has a fair number of different modes of play, but all have similar elements. In the upper left are your current resources and your stats. You have your movement points and your force march points used to move about the map, your morale and how obedient any slaves your caravan has are, how well rested and well fed your group is, your current and maximum cargo capacity and how many supplies you have, and then your current combat attack and defense strength. Under this is your overall supply of money, given in bros, lirg, and changers, with each higher coin being worth 10 of the lower ones. Under this box are your currently assigned deputies. These take the form of named NPCs in your caravan that you assign to various deputy slots, with the number of deputies you have assigned at any one time limited by your authority. In the lower left is your character status, where you can see how many resourcefulness points you have to activate abilities and help rolls, your event log, and then your journal. The journal tracks not only any tasks and quests you have, but also any minor rumors and tidbits of information. In the upper right is the current in-game date and season. The price history displays what goods are bought and sold for in various settlements, that you know of at least, and your map shows what you know about the world and where you are in it. These prices, at least in the price history, may change, so the news can go out of date over time, so you'll have to visit a particular town in a more recent manner in order to get updated price lists. Finally, in the lower right hand is the Compendium. This lists all the lore and specific information your character may know about the world as they explore it. During events and encounters, the main part of the screen is basically display of the text of events in question, giving options to proceed after each passage. If you're familiar with game books, this should be no problem. It's just a standard set of choices on various paragraphs. These choices may require tests or expenditure of resources, which are generally listed here as part of the choice. Exploring and traveling the world puts you into a network of nodes. These nodes have travel times listed for movement points, allowing you to plot your path to your destination within reason. The net fades out past a certain distance, representing not only how far you can travel, but also how far you can force march and potentially scout. Individual terrain types do require more or less movement points, so you can have your various terrain obstruct your ability to get past. Moving to a node is as simple as selecting it and selecting Move To, which deducts the appropriate amount of movement points from your total. You may also see a few icons about the flag representing your location, allowing you to send scouts into various areas at the cost of movement points and potentially losing those scouts, as well as making camp. Traveling also has a chance of uncovering various events as you go. Camping, at the end of the day, is one of the most important parts of traveling. You can determine whether to pay your ongoing wages now or later, although paying later accrues interest and may impact morale negatively. You can also try to alter the obedience of your slaves through various methods and adjust rations to help recover vigor and strength or preserve resources if you're in a desolate area. You can send out hunting parties, either scouts, warriors, or slaves, or all three. This can allow you to recover food or even potentially tradable resources, but may also result in the loss of people as well as vigor for your overall caravan. On this screen, you can also assign your deputies to various slots. There are 6 different roles, each of which covers a different area of the caravan. There's the Guard Captain, Scoutmaster, Marauder Prime, Supercargo, Chief Handler, Slave Driver, Venatores, and Spellweaver, each slot of which provides potential bonuses. Individual companions may provide more of a bonus in certain slots if they have the appropriate skills. If any of your crew are wounded, their treatment chance is listed on the camp screen. And finally, you can assign your guards to various defensive stances, balancing the need for security versus rest and such, although you must have appropriate numbers of guards for the higher security level. Finally, you can end the day and see the results of your overall camp guidelines, which also recuperates your movement points for the next day. If you end your movement on a settlement, you can enter the settlement screen. The settlement screen generally consists of 5 tabs, although many settlements have less. There's the City Exploration tab, where you can go to various parts of the city to investigate. This functions very similar to the standard event style tab, giving you the option to pursue stories and side stories. The Trade tab has several sub-tabs. On the left is your current caravan tabs. Crew lets you review your overall crew with your allotted slaves, workers, scouts, fighters, outriders, mounts, and beasts of burden. Here you can see your morale, obedience, nutrition, and vigor, various upkeep, and so forth, along with any effects that you may have been inflicted on your caravan. The Cargo tab lets you review your unique items, your owned equipment, and your current cargo, as well as what you have equipped on the caravan as a whole. These equipment slots may require certain perks to unlock, but the caravan can equip a variety of objects to give boosts to individual parts of it. Sorcery slot indicates ongoing magical effects. Animal slots allow you to obtain specialized animals. There's tool slots, harness slots, security slots, navigation, weapons and defense, miscellaneous slots, and so forth. Each one grants its equipped gears as bonus to the overall caravan's effectiveness. The Companion tab lets you review the individual stats of your named companions, including their equipment, skills, resistances, and so forth, while finally the Deputies tab allows you to review your assigned deputies and the bonuses that they grant you. On the right side of the trade screen is where you can buy and sell cargo and equipment, and if you're in good with a faction in a particular settlement, you can get specialized gear. The Resting tab allows you to hire a crew and obtain beasts of burden, but also to pick up on local rumors and hire passengers. Because of the nature of the game and the setting itself, you can also sell news that you've heard in other settlements for a bit of money. Passengers generally have a place that they want to go, as well as a price that they're willing to pay. The faction pane also allows you to undertake different quests for different factions. This may involve seeking and killing a monster, bringing goods to a particular area, taking passengers to a particular area, and so forth. These generally do have a time limit, potentially a required cargo capacity, as well as any expected threats that you might face along the way. Many of these may require a higher tier of reputation with a particular faction before you're even allowed to take them. The final real portion of the game I managed to look at in my brief time with it, and in brief time being several hours, is the combat section. There are two main combat types. The first one involves your entire caravan. In this instance, it's generally a set of rounds during which you must protect your caravan from your opponents. On each turn, you may select what to focus on, defending particular parts of the caravan, and then may select who among your overall caravan engages in the actual combat. This generally includes your scouts, fighters, and your named party members, but you can start arming your workers, your slaves, and your passengers as well, although that can be rather dangerous. Those in active combat have a chance to be wounded or killed. During this mode, you can also select up to 2 actions which you can do during the round. They may require resourcefulness points, and the second one generally requires more resourcefulness points in order to modify the particular round. Some of these actions may trigger the tactical combat mode. Tactical combat mode can be entered during certain events or as a subset of the caravan combat mode. This type of combat has you placing individual named party members on a small grid facing off against enemy units. Your main Vagrus is a non-combatant, but may utilize resource points to trigger various effects, provided you have the appropriate perk. Characters have a power and health rating, which, being reduced to 0 health, results in a character becoming wounded and being unable to continue in the combat unless revived. Play progresses through initiative rounds, and when a character's initiative rolls up, they can either move or make an attack. Characters do have a set of moves based on their gear and perks, which may require certain totals of power to accomplish. What they can target and what effects happen are based on the individual ability or the attack used and your positioning on the grid. Not all tactical combats may require that you completely destroy an enemy either, especially during tactical combats triggered by caravan combats. You may only need to hold off enemies for a number of rounds before play progresses back to the caravan combat. There are a few more mechanics within the game, but they are available much later on as you unlock more and more of the story, including the ability to start your own outpost. So after this quick look, what do I think about Vagrus? Well, graphically, the main story in the exploration section has a fairly solid set of artwork, although it is almost all static images or maps. The interface is just a little bit clunky looking, but it's not ugly. It's just busy for what the game is. You aren't going to get a lot in the way of other graphics or animations outside of combat, since the game is basically a game book outside of trade and combat. As far as that goes, however, it is well done and has a lot of really nice art that sets the scene for the setting very well. Now, combat graphics can be another issue. This, along with some of the NPC portraits, is where things get a little bit goofy. The UI's and just a little bit more clunky in combat, and the sprites are just not as polished as the final still images for the rest of the game. It's not that they're bad, it's just that in contrast to the rest of the game, well, you can obviously tell where the polish went. The music is generally a collection of nice orchestral pieces and tend to have a somber, forlorn feel, at least in most areas. This does really give it that post-disaster sort of tone, and it gives it a real punch, and it complements the game rather well. Where Vagrus really shines, however, is the writing. There is a lot of text, a lot of background, and a rich setting to explore, and it really shows. For the most part, the text is well written, and the events are very interesting. The world? Now, I want to see this game's world brought to tabletop gaming in some manner. I don't know if it is already, it may be, but I want it. It's at once dreary and complex and has a distinct Roman feel throughout, despite being rather high fantasy otherwise. There's a stark fall-off when you deal with procedurally generated filler quests, but they aren't terrible. They're just giving you enough background to get the job done while letting you focus on the more involved main story. The challenge level of the game verges into the brutal territory. This is partly due to how difficult some of the combat can be, and the combat does not hold your hand, nor does it adjust to your level, so it's entirely possible to encounter a combat that will overwhelm you. But there's also the fact that there's just the sheer number of things that you can manage. In order to survive, you have to manage trading and questing between settlements, make sure you have enough wages to pay your party. You need to manage your inventory, selecting which wares may bring the best profit, what gears and supplies you need to get to the next stop without carrying too much over the wasteland, and so forth. In order to move between settlements, you have to manage your route, balance resting versus foraging, and manage whatever events you cover across the way You got to pick the best ways to get around various obstacles and difficult terrain and so forth. If your morale gets too low or you run out of money to pay your people, you can start having desertions, murders, and even events that begin to plague you. And of course there's the combat itself, which can put a strain on your caravan by having an important party member get injured. Vagrus is very susceptible to the death spiral phenomena, where your accrued issues begin to really just snowball and take their toll on you until there's really no way out of winning. Losing the game generally doesn't involve your character being killed, although it can, but rather, if your morale gets low enough and things are bad, you can face mutiny and be ousted from your position at Vagrus, basically ending the game. Harsh as the game is, it is very much suited to the genre and the setting, so I really can't complain about it. It's set in a shattered world. Existence really should be difficult. Profiting should not be a walk in the park. The main thing I'll note is that you play more of the game and get a sense for where settlements are before they're added to your map, the better you'll do overall. I also get the sense that certain trade routes will remain profitable during games, or across games, so playing multiple times will eventually give you an advantage, not to mention the different playstyles each starting build has to offer. Finally, although Vagrus is no longer in early access, it is still having material added to it and bugs squashed. Now, I didn't encounter anything outstanding or game-breaking in my time with it regarding errors or the like, but it is nice to know that it's in active development still. I can't wait to see those last few things added in, although I wish games would actually finish before they're released from early access. But hey, if the AAA games can't do it, then why should I expect an indie game to do it? So yeah, overall, Vagrus has its flaws, yes, and it is very reading-heavy in terms of gameplay, but if you aren't into that, it's probably not to you. But if you like a mix of gamebook, if you like trading strategy, and you like in-depth story and really complex settings, all in a solid product, I can't recommend this one highly enough. Vagrus the Riven Realms is worth the full asking price, in my opinion, at least if you're a fan of the genre. And on that note, I'm going to wrap it up here. This has been the RPG Crawler with my Indie Game Friday of Vagrus the Riven Realms. As always, I'll leave a link to where you can pick it up below. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment, got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye. And if you are still watching, I would like to take the opportunity to thank my supporters, the top tiers of which are listed on the screen, without whose support I would not have been able to offer the variety of content that I have on this channel throughout the years. If you're feeling particularly generous and would like to join them, you can support the channel. There are a variety of options to do so. I have a Patreon, a Subscribestar, as well as channel memberships enabled. If you are not in a position to contribute, simply leaving a like, a comment, or sharing my videos are all wonderful ways to help the channel grow without spending a dime, and are all greatly appreciated.